Dogman. Yes, a grown man is going to be doing a rant on a movie that is clearly targeted for younger kids. In fact, every time I watched it, or every time I saw something on Peacock about this film, it says the family event sort of thing. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I didn't really know much about the source material for this thing. Recently, I just saw it on like somebody's bookshelf. I pulled it down. I flipped through it, and what it looked like was essentially just if an 8-year-old were to write a comic book, Dogman would be that. So, in adapting it to a movie, how does it fare? Well, I'd say it's actually not too bad. The issue is it sort of shifts back and forth every once in a while. It'll go from that very juvenile to humor, and then suddenly it'll kind of go into something I feel like more mature humor. I don't want to say adult humor because that connotates something that maybe kids can't watch, but trust me, Dogman the movie, kids will probably love it because, well, it feels kind of like a sugar high fever dream sometimes. In fact, there are times in which its pacing is very, 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 very quick. And like scenes will happen, and then they'll just kind of end, and then they'll kind of go into the other thing. I was very surprised at just how the editing of this film was just kind of all over the place. They would start something, and then they'd quit it, and then they'd do another scene, then they'd go back to another scene, and I kind of went like, okay, this is just almost like, this is almost ADHD filmmaking. And to even make this sort of weirder, there's a robot in this thing known as ADHD. And I kind of think like, well, that sort of brings it back. So what's the plot of Dogman, you ask? Well, one day a cop and his dog are out on their patrol, and they get into an accident, and apparently the only way to save them is to put the head of the dog on the body of the man. And before you're asking yourself, yeah, that probably wouldn't work, would it? No, they've already done it. So yeah, that's sort of the thing. And apparently and this film doesn't really hold back from showing the fact that, yeah, this Dogman feels very lonely in a world that doesn't really understand him. They don't really delve too much into that. What really they delve into is the fact that, well, he's trying to find a place to call home is kind of the issue. Because, I mean, hey, you know your dog wants to be home. You know, your dog wants to be with you. And I think that's one of the things I liked about this thing. Dogman is essentially, I feel like, one of Snoopy's other personas. You know, like how he's always trying to hunt down the Red Baron, or he's always trying to do something, or, you know, he's always typing in a novel. I feel like Snoopy wrote this. So essentially, what is really strange to me is there's a character named Petey, who's a cat, who's apparently this big criminal in this world of Dogman. And Petey lives in a place that's just labeled Petey's Secret Hideout, and it's got big arrows on it to let you know what it is, and that's straight from the book. And I was actually surprised that that sort of ended up that way. But it kind of feels like something that would be in there. And Petey is just a criminal and is a bad seed, and apparently was always a bad seed. And one day he decides to, and this is, it was really strange what this film decided to have as plot points. One day Petey decides to get a cloning kit so he can clone himself, and he ends up with a child. And essentially this kid is kind of annoying to him. So one day Petey just sort of leaves him out, and then Dogman adopts little Petey. And that, I have to say, I'm not sure how well this plotline is really handled in this film. Because honestly, the little Petey character is a character that I feel like maybe kids could relate to, but adults would probably find annoying. For example, he always asks why all the time. And there are also major plot points that I feel like are just sort of skipped over in this thing. For example, there's this Dogman once had to deal with this one fish who had telekinetic power, and when his sergeant character, and he's played by Lil Rel Howery, and the sergeant guy is always that, he's that guy that you always see in the cop films that goes, "You're off the case," it's like, "You were a loose cannon." He's that guy, and this film knows that. It knows this trope. So one day, I think when Dogman is called in the office, the guy just, he goes into this whiteboard and or not a whiteboard, but one of those boards like with photos, little string connecting the thing, and he just sort of briefly describes like his past with this telekinetic fish enemy thing, and he does it so fast that you, as the audience, don't get it, and this is done on purpose. And I kind of went like, you could have easily had a prequel to this movie right here, and maybe that was the plan. I don't know. And apparently, the character of Pete the Cat, or Petey the Cat, wants to somehow take this telekinetic fish, which they're keeping its body alive for science so they can study it. And he thinks it like, all I have to do is just drop it down this one smokestack in this living spray factory. And apparently this is a thing. This is a living spray. Like, this city has a building devoted to spray that will bring you back to life, I guess. And here's the thing. One day there's so I think that what happens is this fish gets dropped down the wrong smokestack, but eventually it punctures a hole in there. And so the spray starts to leak out, and then the building comes to life. So not only is this fish thing, voiced by Ricky Gervais, comes to life and becomes an enemy, but the buildings start coming to life too. And I kind of thought, okay, this is getting kind of odd. And then here's the thing. Actually, Dogman and Petey have to team up and fight together. And this happens, like, I can't even remember. This is kind of a third act, but I kind of went like, okay, they sure are doing this very quickly. Because there really isn't any part in which, like, I've seen this before, this plotline where the bad guy and the good guy have to team up to fight. And there's usually a scene where they fight each other first, and then they finally get to this settlement where they go, okay, temporary truce. And I kind of felt like this time they just go temporary truce, and it was just like that quickly. And it's even made more complicated because each of them had tried to raise little Petey. So yeah. Oh, and by the way, remember that robot I was talking about, ADHD? That's Petey's robot. And one time it goes and gets Petey's father, and so Petey's father is in this thing, but he doesn't really play much of a role in this thing. I don't really know what the whole point of even bringing him in the thing is. So anyway, yeah, as it turns out, little Petey is able to calm down the fish and all the consequently living buildings. And here's the thing about this film. I actually think it ends pretty well. I think there's a very positive message here that is shown and it isn't told. This feels like, Dogman feels like a movie that it isn't really trying to, it's not one of those films that just sits down and tells you the moral of it. No, it shows you what it's trying to say. There's a really good scene where Petey is with little Petey, and little Petey is looking around, goes like, look at that beautiful river. It's like, and Petey just says, no, it's full of pollution. It's like, well, look at that wonderful flower. It's like, no, it's a weed. And it's like, I swear 80% of like life is just crap. And it's very interesting that in the end, Petey realizes that little Petey is better off with Dogman, and then just sort of drops him off there. And after that, you see him go home, pick up the weeds, and then he goes into the river, takes the bottle that's polluting it, and then puts the weeds in the bottle. And I don't know, there's something really special about that message to me. I sort of thought that it's not telling you to make the world a better place. It's showing you how to make a world a better place. So finding your own way to make a world the better place. And I think that's a really good message. I actually think like, okay, this actually is pretty good for what it's worth. So, I mean, yeah, this film is not made for me. And for me to judge it, I just don't even feel right judging it, okay? But I have to say, that scene they showed me at the end, that was good, okay? I'm going to say that. If you watch any part of Dogman, yeah, just watch the last part of it, okay? So, hey, what you gonna say? And as far as I know, there was no end post-credit scene, so, hey. Anyway, that's been my review of Dog Man, and yes, I did it. And this is Mark from the Geek Church, signing off.